Let's get back to politics, shall we? I'm joined now by an old colleague of mine, actually. I haven't spoken to her for a while. Annunciata Rees-Mogg. She, of course, sat with me in the European Parliament as a Brexit Party MEP before tootling back to the Conservatives. Naughty her. She's now Head of Communications for Popular Conservatism. Hi, Annunciata. How are you doing?
All right. How are you, Alex?
I'm super well. I always remember there was a mad night we once had in my garden, in my flat in Brussels. There was a load of us there all getting a little bit sozzled.
I didn't join you on that when I was pregnant.
I remember you being there, Annunciata.
Not that one.
Oh.
There were some good occasions, but I'm just so happy to see you're still fighting the good fight.
And so are you, indeed. Head of Popular Communications, Head of Communications for Popular Conservatism. Let's talk about unpopular Labourism or socialism. I mean, those of us more attached to the right wing of politics, like, oh, God, a Labour government again after 14 years. But even I kind of sort of felt, well, the Conservatives haven't really done the job here, and maybe Labour aren't going to be that bad. I think I was wrong. I think I was misguided in that sort of, well, lack of extreme pessimism. What do you make of Starmer's first 100 days in power?
Well, I think it's actually a great lesson for the Conservative Party that Labour has had 14 years in power. We just saw a clip of Keir Starmer saying that not only was he prepared for government, but every department was prepared for government. And it's become quite clear they weren't, that they have gotten, as you said earlier on your show, it's a complete scattergun approach. There is no vision, there is no coordination, and the British public are the people suffering from this.
Do you know, I sometimes think, Annunciata, that the problem we now have with this country and the government, and whichever rosette they've worn during an election campaign, is they might, even if they had the most ingenuitive, creative, you know, blue sky thinking, or red sky thinking if you're a socialist, approach to politics, and all of these dreams, and even a joined-up sort of manifesto and a vision for this country, when you sit in office, it's a very different thing. Suddenly, you find out if you're Liz Truss, well, you're trying to do X, Y, and Z, and the machine's going to move against you. If you're Sir Keir Starmer, you want to do X, Y, and Z, and you're told, well, actually, the sums don't add up. Do you think there's a degree of latitude we can give to Starmer? Because there actually is no latitude when it comes to governing. We've signed up to so many international entities, created so many quangos, and locked ourselves in a Gordian knot of complexity that it doesn't matter who's Prime Minister. There's very little they can actually do.
I completely agree, and that's the big platform that popular conservatism is standing on, that if we're going to have a democracy, then our elected officials have to be able to make decisions for good or ill. And what we've done instead under Tony Blair, and then continued, unfortunately, by the Conservatives, or at the very least not undone, is hand over power to all sorts of bodies, both domestically and abroad, that hamstring our politicians so that they can't enact what they want to. Labour, unfortunately, have decided to make this even stronger. That if you look at Rachel Reeves wanting to give the OBR even more power over how the British economy is run, I think that is a grave error.
Yeah, by the way, breaking news, folks. Ricky Freelove just came through the door and gave me the look. He just looked at me and raised his eyebrows. So keep your thoughts coming in about what food choices are your favourites. So what do you think the answer is here? Because, you know, Annunciata, I'm very much on the same page as you. When you look at what's being spoken about in America, when you look at the populist revolution that's sweeping across the European continent, it's very clear that most people in the West in the 21st century don't like globalism, that there is an active revolt going on in national elections to push back against this. We're the odd one out, having voted in a Labour government, but I guess we actually started it all with Brexit. But does it need to be almost an international coalition, so to speak, of people to actually break the onerous stranglehold of the international coalitions? Do we need to have, say, a Trump in America, a Le Pen in France, and so on and so forth, if we're all going to club together and say we no longer want to be ruled by a globalist elite?
I think the important thing is that Brexit reinforced the point that no government can tie its successors. And that means that Labour right now, or the next government, can take us out of any of our international treaties if they so wish to do. And you will have noticed it's Robert Jenrick's policy to remove us from the ECHR that was started with very good reasons, but has overreached and overreached and overreached until a point at which we cannot defend our borders, we cannot control our own country. As Switzerland discovered, they can't control their own environment. That wasn't what it was set up to. And I think Robert Jenrick is correct that we should now leave it, because reforming with 40-odd members is not actually going to happen. It's certainly not going to happen in any timescale that will be of benefit to this country or be seen as democratic. And that is true of a lot of these organisations. But we have compounded all of that by giving power to arm's length bodies, as they call them, quangos as we used to call them, within the UK. That if you look at any area, there are autonomous bodies that do not have ministerial oversight or leadership, that the public, therefore, have no answerability from.
I mean, is it going to be easy to unpick this? Because like you said, there's a sort of nebulous of all of these entities, these quangos, both domestically and internationally. And also, what's your theory on what's going on here? Is it just the fact that over the course of history, as the world's become more interconnected through technological, digital revolutions in, travel and so on and so forth, also as the world sort of licks its wounds in the wake of 2 world wars, that this sort of natural move towards globalism was always going to happen, that it was inevitable. And actually, when you magic these entities, these supranational organisations into existence, then just general mission creep and the fact that they continue to exist means they get more and more competences, as they like to call them, responsibilities. They basically continue with power grabs until we end up essentially with what starts looking more like, sovereignty at national level is a thing of the past. Or do you think there is a sort of will to do this? Is there, a lot of people out there think there's a coherent plot to create a global government. Where would you stand on that?
I very much go with the former, for the number one reason that there are so many egos in politics, particularly once you get onto the international stage. I can't actually see them working together for any end in and of itself. And I don't think they're that organised. I don't think they're that collegiate to manage to do so. But there has definitely been a power grab. That they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I think a lot of these things did start with good intentions, whether you look at the World Health Organization, but that the power grab, the constant drawing in of extra competencies, which was just a rewriting of the word power, they have ended up overtaking our sovereignty. And I think the next government, or hopefully this one, but I don't hold out much hope, has to look at all our international relationships, because any country that does go it alone does take some level of risk, but it also has great opportunity, because it would mean we could make ourselves a much more attractive place to invest. We could make it a much better place to live, because we would be the people not constrained by all these rather worrying limitations.
Annunziata, it was us, wasn't it? Sitting there in the Brexit party. We were the first, the originals, if you will, of seizing control from the globalist elites. Annunziata Rees-Mogg, fantastic to have you on. Before you go, I get the impression, though, from what you said, that you'll be a Jenrick backer in the leadership contest.
I'm not 100% decided. I think both have good points, and both have taken a lesson from Keir Starmer, that Kemi is expressing her belief in values, where Keir Starmer kept silent. Jenrick is expressing his policy plans, where again Keir Starmer seems to have had none. I think they are both very much heading in the right direction. I think it's a very good final that's very healthy for the Conservative Party.
Annunziata, fantastic catching up with you, my dear, and let's meet up for a drink soon. It's been a while. No, I'd love that. She's a great laugh, and Annunziata. She's a cracker on a night out. I'll give you that much.